Hi everyone. It is an exciting topic today. We are talking about body positivity and I cannot wait to talk in. So we're going to wait while everyone joins us. But how are you doing? Hello Debbie. How are you? Debbie and Kemi. Hope you're doing well. Hi Reza. And Lena, Aya, and two others joined. I don't know why I didn't put your names individually, why it's saying two others. Naz's World, what are you guys up to? How has your day been? Hope you've had great weather wherever you are, because you know the weather really does affect our minds. And I'm so excited to be chatting today about a topic that I think is necessary for us, for women in particular, but I think guys also have that experience too. But particularly when it comes to postpartum or even while you're still pregnant, the question about how we feel about our bodies is one that we have to deal with. So today we have an amazing lady joining us today. Oh, she's seen her request. 1 second, let me just get Pegah. Pegah is the co-founder of Mama app, which is the yellow pages for trying to conceive, motherhood, pregnancy. Hey Pegah.
How are you doing?
I am so fine. How are you doing? You look amazing.
Thank you very much. I feel a bit tired, but
Oh dear. You've had one of those days.
yeah, there's a lot happening, but I'm really excited to be doing this live with you. So hello to everyone that's joining us, and thank you for asking me to do this with you. I'm really excited.
Listen, we cannot wait to get in, and we're super thrilled that you were accepted, because even though we are a baby furniture brand and we've got the retail store in London, we come across the questions that we come across and the situations that we have to address, because you know our clients are either newly pregnant moms or they are already, you know, well advanced into it. Might be second or even third pregnancy, or even just moms who have recently given birth. And we find that our role goes from being experts in nursery interiors and the nursery design space. We go from that and become counselors and encouragers, and here, this is our experience, and here, this is this person we can connect you with. And so we thought we'll do a series of lives where we talk to experts in different fields, in different areas, because you know we don't know it all. So today we're borrowing from your experience, and we're borrowing from your expertise and your knowledge, and we're talking about body positivity.
Wonderful.
So Pegah, tell us who you are, because I have given a very brief rundown before you came on.
Yeah.
Please help me there.
So I'm Pegah, and I, along with my business partner Grace, founded the Mama app. It is essentially a yellow pages for women who are pregnant, mums, and also women who are trying to have a baby. So we wanted to have a platform and a social media presence where women were able to go and seek advice from other experts, or find experts that they perhaps didn't even know existed, and to help them through their motherhood journey. And for us, motherhood wasn't when you were pregnant and you had a baby. Motherhood started a lot before that process, and also a lot afterwards. So for some women, they have difficulty in conceiving. Motherhood also comes from, IVF or adoption or fostering, and there's so many different layers to this.
That's right.
We wanted to have women and mums have access to a platform that was allowing them to feel their best mentally, physically, emotionally. And a lot of the times that comes with support and help from other people. You can't do that on your own. It's very difficult. We all know that. So we wanted to introduce different experts to our mums and to our social media presence, and to the people that had downloaded our app. So For example, you know, if you were a mum who was looking to conceive, you were having difficulty conceiving, we had tailor-made personal trainers that were getting your body fit, or we had IVF specialists or doctors. If you were pregnant, you know, you were looking to have somebody come and help you on the day that you were giving birth. You wanted tailor-made food and fitness, to beauty, to maternity nurses, to psychiatrists. I mean, you think of it, we sort of have thought, and we are growing the platform. We launched a couple of weeks before we went into lockdown, so it was a little bit of a tricky time, but over the last sort of couple of years, we've grown organically. We've now got a couple of thousand, if not a bit more, mums that are actively looking at the app and getting in touch with us for us to be, you know, that connection between their motherhood journey and the experts. So, you know, it's great doing this live with you, because throughout the last 3 years, we've spoken to so many women, and so many families, and everybody's experience is different, and everybody's motherhood journey is different, and everybody's postpartum journey is different. So it's really good to have this conversation with you, because I think we're able to share some insight to your followers as well, and hopefully answer any questions that they may have.
That's awesome. So well done for setting up, and for setting up your business during lockdown, and which was around the time I think we had met as well. Like, I don't even remember what the genesis of our relationship was, but we did come across your app, and it's desperately needed, because I see it as a village. You know, it takes a village to raise a woman. I know that we say that for children, but we never stop growing as women. We never stop having needs, and we need that support. And sometimes, when you're expecting a baby, or you're trying to conceive, or you've just had a baby, it isn't always that your friends and family align with regards to where you are. We literally just had a family leave the store. They were shopping for 2 babies, and it's sisters who are both due 2 weeks apart. They're literally actual sisters. They're both due in February, and one is 2 weeks earlier than the other. That is, I don't think I've seen that before. Or maybe I have once, but that is so unusual and so beautiful at the same time. But we don't always have that when the people closest to us are running or walking the same path and at the same point. So I think the Mama app really does present that space for a community where we can just dive in and grab exactly what we want and ask questions, and there are options and so on. So that it's a great app, and I can see it just growing and becoming, you know, bigger than you imagine that it will be. So on to the topic. We're talking today with Pegah from Mama App. She's one of the co-founders, and we're talking about body positivity. So what is body image, Pegah?
Body image, I think, is something that is so different for everybody, whether you are male, female, young, old, a child, an adult. And I think it's something that is so subjective. When we talk about body image, we're talking about the way that we perceive ourselves, the way that others potentially physically perceive us. And that also comes with both positive and negative connotations. For me personally, body image for me is how I look at myself, and body image for me also includes an aspect of mental well-being within it. So, you know, if I'm feeling mentally happy and I feel mentally in a strong place, then I naturally feel other parts of my life are also in a positive place, so to speak, whether that's my body, whether that's my job, whether that's my relationships with people around me, whether that's my day-to-day ability to get things done. However, I find that if your mental health is, whether it's a daily thing or a weekly thing, or you're just going through a very difficult period, if there's stuff that's going on with you, there's stuff that you're anxious about, that you're nervous about, that ultimately, like a domino effect, filters down to the rest of your life. And one part of that is your body image. And I think one thing that's very important to do, especially with women who are pregnant or, you know, have just had a baby, that reaffirming of, you know, sometimes a lot of things are in here, and as long as we can meditate and speak to people look at ways that we can sort out what's going on with us internally, other things will also feel and look better, dare I use that word.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So in the end, I guess what you're saying as well, or what I'm hearing, is that the onus is also on us to make sure that the meditation and the reaffirmation of how we feel about ourselves, we actually have that responsibility to do that for ourselves. And I say that because when you look at social media, for example, which when you think about the trajectory of where body positivity needed to even become a topic that we were talking about, and the advent of social media and where it's going today and how proliferated our world is with social, you can see that the trajectory is exactly the same, because now we have access to images that we didn't have access to previously. You know, if I had a cousin in Australia and she was pregnant, and you know, and I wouldn't know what she looked like. I wouldn't know what, you know, the celebrities of this world looked like. And so it's a combination of people becoming more comfortable with their bodies and therefore sharing it, but then it's also not helped in some ways, because it now means that there is that potential to compare ourselves unfavorably with other people, which then affects how we feel about ourselves mentally. Is that what you're saying?
I totally, yeah, that's it. And it's so easy to just be on your phone, flicking through, you know, being on the news feed, and you see somebody who's living your life different to your, how you thought you were going to live your life, and it affects you, and you think, why don't I look like that? Why am I not doing that? Why am I not feeling this? And you just, it starts having a very detrimental effect on you. So I totally agree. I think social media has many positive aspects to it. Unfortunately, you know, sometimes other people view that may not be accurate, and it ends up leaving such a mental health issue on so many people. In the topic that we're discussing, body image, with parents, with mums, especially with women, and then you filter that down all the way to children and teenagers and the things that they're seeing. So yes, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, I hear it. And it really does affect one's self-esteem as well, because the two of them are linked. Do you think that it's possible for it not to be linked? Like, do you think that we can work on our minds to a point where we no longer feel that how we see ourselves affects our self-esteem? Is that a possibility?
I think it is, but I don't think that's something that comes easy.
Mm.
I think it's something you have to work for, and it's not like, you know, you go and do work on this for a month or a year and then that's it, you're fine. It's continuous.
Yeah.
You're always working on yourself, and you have to be always bettering yourself in whatever way that may be. And saying, you know, can we rid ourselves of this ability to not compare ourselves to other people? Yes, but then something might trigger you 4 years down the line, and then you're in the same position. So I think it's something you do have to work at every day. But I think if you do end up, it's like a routine, right? If you end up in a routine and you're doing this constantly, over time it becomes easier and easier and easier. And then over time you also notice the little trigger points that are making you feel maybe a little bit sad, or making you feel whatever it is that you're getting from either social media or websites or TV or film or whatever. So you can then identify those triggers and go to yourself, okay, I'm starting to feel X, Y, and Z. This must be as a result of this thing that's happening. And how can I take myself out of it, or how can I change something that's in it?
Yeah.
But it's difficult. I mean, I try my best personally to take myself out of situations that may be triggering for me, whether it comes to body image or whether it comes to, you know, comparison on social media.
Yeah.
But I have over the years got better than what I was maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But it's not it's not
It's
easy.
not easy. I agree with you. I definitely agree. It has to become a lifestyle, because you don't know what, and also when you think about how we are constantly evolving, it means that I always say that I don't know who I am a month from now. You know, I'm completely a different person today than I will be a month or two from now. And what might affect me today may not affect me, you know, later on, and vice versa. So I record a podcast called Living Inside Out, because I truly believe that the value of a person spills from your inside outward. It's not, all of the focus doesn't have to be on the external, which is what I was doing. I was focusing a lot on not even just my physical being, but everything that I was doing, and placing value on the things that were tangible and the things that I could see or touch, So I found that there was a very valid and important part of me, which is really who you really are, is who you are on the inside.
What for you? What was the moment that you made you think, okay, or is there like, I guess, what was the moment that made you think, right, I need to start changing my habits with social media? Because I think for me it was when I started comparing myself, and everyone has a moment, right, of motivation.
Yeah. I think for me it was more when I came across, I was literally I journal a lot. And so one day I was preparing for the start of the new year, and I noticed that all of my plans for the following year were superficial, and it was nothing. And I knew that we're not made up entirely of a physical being. We have a mind, we have a spirit, but then there was nothing that I was doing or adding to my list of things to do or goals that affected those other areas of my parts, my inside. And so I thought, I'm writing, do the laundry on Thursdays and do the shopping on Friday, and go for makeup lessons and get your hair done on this day, and a new wardrobe, and all of these things were all external bits. And I thought, I'm leaving a very valid part of myself out. So I started to look inwards, and literally while I was journaling, the word authenticity just got dropped into my spirit, and I began researching. I just went to the dictionary. It says, leave as the original version of yourself. Like, don't don't quote yourself based on someone else's paint.
Wow.
Don't look at other people and think to yourself that this is how I'm supposed to be. Don't set up other people as your standard for how you're meant to be. How about considering the real possibility that who you are on the inside, how you feel on the inside, even when it's not glamorous, is actually how you're supposed to live your life. And so I started to practice that, and I haven't looked back since. And it's really helped me with regards to relationships with people, even in running my business as well, making decisions. It certainly helped me to connect better with my customers, because I had an idea of what my ideal customer was like, and I look nothing like them. And so having that dissonance meant that every time I was in front of a customer, I felt the need to put on a persona that wasn't mine. I felt the need to speak in a way that I don't normally speak in, and I just felt like I've got to be what they want me to be. But the minute I started to practice authentic living, I became comfortable being myself. And I found that I began to establish a lot more, I guess, for lack of a better word, authentic relationships with people, including customers. So that's how it is. And I hear you on comparison on social media as well, and where that has affected me. Maybe not, well, I was going to say maybe not so much in the body, but yeah, it has been, because I do have a belly that I would love to become flat and a six-pack, and it's just refusing. But it's in many things.
That word of authenticity is so incredibly important to use. If you are or ever act like not yourself, it's exhausting. It's difficult, and you go home and you think, I'm mentally drained. Why am I mentally drained? And then, like you said, you look inwards and you go, it's because I'm not being true to myself.
Yes.
I'm true to my beliefs and how I was raised and how I want to act. And then the more and more you do end up with this more authentic version of yourself, you are, unapologetically yourself, things become really easy, and you go, oh, this whole time.
The burden is lifted, and you don't. And when you said about feeling exhausted, what came to mind was, of course we'll feel exhausted, because we're wearing other people's skin on us mentally, right?
I love that. I think wearing other people's skin, that's such a great way of putting it, and it's so true. And I think, going back to mums and body positivity, I think when you've just had a baby, or you have just gone through something that's so altering as a pregnancy, your hormones are all over the place, your life changing in a way that sometimes you've maybe, perhaps as a first time mum, you've never gone through before. All of these start affecting you, and your idea of body image changes also because your body is literally changing day to day. Parts of your body are becoming more sensitive. You're getting bigger in different areas. You're losing sensitivity in other areas. Your hair falling out. All of these things, and you're like, oh my goodness. And then this is where you almost need to have not either or, it's both. You need to have a very strong support system around you. You need to say to them, I'm feeling this, I need to talk to someone about this. And at the same time, you need to practice mindfulness, and you need to practice self-authenticity, and you need to practice all of the things that get things right in here.
I absolutely agree.
But your mental health can control so many aspects of your life, and if this is healthy, everything else can be healthy. And look, everybody goes through stages of their life when depression is very poignant, or you're feeling very anxious, or there's so many layers to mental health that I think sometimes people think, oh, I'm feeling a little bit sad at the moment, but it's only for a few weeks, it will pass, so it's not a big.
It will pass.
Somebody else is feeling something worse. You're feeling something, and that tiny little thing that's affecting the rest of your life, if it's affecting you, it's affecting you. It doesn't matter if it's not as important or somebody else's. There's no scale how it works. If something's affecting you mentally, find a way, solve that, and get to the root of that and fix that for yourself. Others. The lights just turned off.
I noticed the difference. I can still see you though. We can still see you.
I need to just move so it comes back on.
All right, no worries.
There we go.
It's back on again. I agree with you. And you mentioned about support. What role do you think that family or your spouse would play in supporting you in that manner? What are the practical ways?
I think a very, very, very big role. I think one of the ways could be just talking. I'm a firm believer that, I'll give you an example. I was recently had to make a decision on something that was quite in my life quite important, and I didn't know if I should take route A or route B. And I'd been thinking about this for 5 or 6 days, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, if I do this, this might happen. If I do that, that might happen. And when you're just going round and round and round and round in your head. And then my partner he lives in Switzerland, and he was in London visiting, and we were talking about this, and he said, okay, so what are the 2 options? And I said, these are the 2 options. And he said, okay, tell me the pros and cons. And I said, I've got the pros and cons, I just need to make a decision. He said, but what are the pros and cons? And that simple question of saying, what is it that you're thinking about? I said, okay, well, the pros are this and the cons are this for both sides. And then as I was talking about them, he would, question, and he would say, why is this a pro or why is this a con? And that just opened up such a big dialogue that I went, oh, wait, you're right. And you're thinking out loud. And when you're saying things out loud, things start coming to you. Now, that's a very easy and simple example, but
it's powerful though, because it's a great example, because I can, while you were speaking, I could see how that will work, because you may have thought that you had explored all options and you were still unable to make a decision. Like, I know everything there is to know about both route A and route B, but then your other half's input into it and him asking you questions from a different perspective was able to open up your mind to see even more out there. So I can see it's not a simple example at all. It's a very, very powerful one.
And now, Tox, you take that on to, if you're feeling super anxious about being a new mum, for example, or you're feeling super anxious about the way that you look post-pregnancy, just that ability to talk to someone close to you. Now, sometimes that's not a partner, sometimes that's a friend, sometimes that's a parent, whoever that may be. Talk, communicate. That is the biggest tool, I think, in our physical, if you will, toolbox is this, the ability to communicate and say how we're feeling. And with this comes, it takes a lot of strength sometimes to say, I need help. And I think a lot of people struggle with asking for help, whether that's emotional help, physical help, whatever help it may be. But I think one of the ways that you can get that support is by talking to people and finding a way with that individual that you can fix perhaps an issue that you may have. Another thing that I find is super helpful for me is writing things down.
Yes.
I write things down, I read it,
Mm-hmm.
and I come back to it the next day. And I read it again. And if I'm trying to resolve something, I will notice something that I've missed and I go, this needs to go here.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to, come to a realization about something, or if I'm really upset about something, I'll read it and I'll go, okay, it's interesting reading this back now.
Mm-hmm.
It's that bit that's making me upset. Whereas right now, I'm in the same situation, but it's actually this bit that's making me
Yeah.
write that emotion down. And what you were saying about journaling earlier completely resonated with me, because getting your words down,
Yeah.
there's two ways you do it. You talk to people, or you talk
Oh,
by
you're
you
right. Yeah.
write something down. It's so powerful and it sounds incredibly easy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how is that going to help me just putting pen to paper? But it does. It can have a 180 difference on your perspective and your ability to ask for help, or the way that you see yourself. And I think it's all just sort of coming back down to really things that are going on in here. And one of the things I think a lot of new mums struggle with is asking for help. Sometimes that's purely because they are a new mum and they don't know what you can ask for help for.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm waffling a bit now, but I think you.
No. You make such valid points, Pegah. I absolutely agree. From journaling, right? I mean, I go on about journaling as well. And one thing that it does, if you're on the call and you're not convinced about the power of journaling or communicating your thoughts with paper, if you don't have anyone to speak with, is that it exposes the thoughts for what they really are.
Yeah.
So where you're thinking that, oh my goodness, I've got this massive issue, I've got this major problem, when you put it on paper, it actually is stripped of all of its power to morph into a monster. And
Yeah.
then you look at it and you think it really isn't that. And what you said about going away and coming back and looking at it is so true. Sometimes it's leaving it till the next morning, and then you wake up with a new perspective and you look and you feel refreshed and you're like, oh, this is easy. I can tick this off. But I also feel that what another way, I agree with talking to loved ones, but I also think that we have to take on the responsibility of setting boundaries. And by setting boundaries, I mean teaching your loved ones what to say back to you.
Yeah.
So when there is, like maybe there's programming and it's negative or triggering for you, and how you see yourself and how you feel about your image, your body image. And imagine that you're watching that with somebody, a friend, or even your spouse or your other half or whoever, and the person starts to take digs at whoever it is on television, or if in the media they're making fun of someone's body
Yeah.
and calling her fat and so on. You have the responsibility to coach and teach them that that is not acceptable, so that they don't run the risk of saying it back to you, because
Yeah.
whatever you tolerate in your space is what's going to come back to you. You've basically permitted them to feed you junk. So we have to make sure we take on that responsibility as well, that in our communication, it's not just the conversation shouldn't only be about how I feel and can you help me feel better, or can you encourage me, but it's also, hey, let me teach you how I expect to be spoken to, and let me teach you what I tolerate in my space. One thing I talk about a lot as well is the mind feeds on whatever's in your environment, and whatever your mind feeds on becomes excuse me, becomes the source of your thoughts. And whatever your thoughts are, they create your emotions. Whatever your emotions are drives your actions, which create results, which forms your environment. So you end up being in a cycle if you don't break that pattern of
Yeah.
allowing junk into your space, either through, like you said at the beginning of the call, stopping or managing what you're looking at on social media, but also managing what loved ones are saying to you.
Yeah. I think you're so right. And feeding the mind with junk, that's such a powerful, powerful phrase. And also it's a way to educate people. The way,
Yes, yeah.
not just for yourself, for other people. So
But
they
for others, yeah,
other people, because somebody else might be offended. And
absolutely.
else might not be saying it as calmly as you are. So yeah, I think it's so important to do that.
It is. Do you feel that men also face the same challenges or similar challenges with regards to body image?
I think everybody struggles with body image.
Mm.
I think if we're looking at postpartum, men probably not as much as women. Men haven't physically gone through the birth or, you know, the change of pregnancy. But I think overall, yes, men also do struggle with body image and body positivity. And I think the difference is men are innately less likely to communicate how they're feeling. Women, especially with friends, are much quicker to say, you know, using just weight as an example here, I've put on a bit of weight. Women are happy to say, men not so much. And I think men generally are not as good as communicating as women, and this is something that's been proving time and time again. And I think this is why unfortunately suicide is so much more prevalent in men than it is in women, because they internalize things a lot more. I think, having said that though, society as a whole is built on more pressures for women to look a certain way. You know, what we regard as beauty for women a lot of the time is very subjective. What we regard as beauty for men sometimes is not necessarily subjective. They do a certain job, whereas for women it usually just comes down to the way that they look, and that's shifting. And you can see the narrative within films, within social media, within just so many movements. That change is shifting, and women are trying to take back their own narrative in the way that they're regarded. But if you look back from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and even early 2000s, no, women were essentially just look pretty, you know. You're meant to look a certain way. You're meant to be tiny but still have large breasts or a big bum, but still supposed to be small, you know.
That's right. Yeah.
Always more on a almost deeper level. But that is changing, and I'm glad that it's changing, because I think it's important for especially those that are affected by this thing, or people that are young and very susceptible to this information. I think I'm glad that is shifting along to another way now.
That's such a good thing. And you know, sometimes, you know, there are some phrases that I stay away from, things like life is hard, or the world is a horrible place, and things like that. But when you look at the way that the world is evolving, yes, there are some things that appear to be going backwards, but then there is so much more, that there is some evolution going on. For example, men being able to talk about their feelings. I have 4 sons and a husband, so I live in a house with 5 men, and I'm the only girl.
Wow.
And it becomes quite evident when I'm speaking to my boys, and I'm, you know, trying to get them to tell me how they feel, you know, and all of that. So I don't, although I grew up again with brothers, because I don't have sisters either, it would appear that God's intention was that I wouldn't have female relatives in my life at this stage. But when I think about what it was like growing up with my brothers, I think that I leaned more towards the masculine. You know, I was a tomboy, and although I didn't have any issues talking about my emotions per se, I don't think I did when I was younger. It's not something that I regularly do, but I think it's potentially because of the influence of having all the men in my life, where they don't talk about
versus nature coming into play here.
Yeah, really, really interesting. Well, that's you know, when I had my my 4th, so when I used to be quite slim all my life, and I'm Nigerian, and us Nigerian women typically are very curvy, and that was one thing I didn't have. I didn't have the nice round hips or bum, and I always craved it. And then I started to have my children, and not much changed with regards to my body. I'd always been busty, but not much changed with regards to the rest of my body. But then when I had my 4th son, oh my goodness, the little bum I had practically disappeared. I was so miserable, because I mean, all my aunties and my mom are all nice and curvy, and I would look like a boy. And so I'm like, oh, finally, you know, I've had kids and my body has changed, and now I'm looking more womanly, and then all of a sudden I have my youngest son. But I also was going through a challenge at the time. That was when we had lost everything, and I started my business from scratch. I used to live in the US. We came back here in the recession. I lost everything. And the thought constantly crossed my mind, like, not only have you lost all your possessions, you're losing your body too. Look, your bones are gone. Your jeans are too big.
So hard. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
This
But
is
I'm pleased to say it's back now. So
I'm very happy for you.
thank you. So the postpartum body, I mean, so now I've got this pouch of my belly, which I'm not very happy about. I'm coming to terms with it. But I went onto your page. Your Instagram page is a minefield for anyone who is looking to feel good about themselves and recalibrate their brain to what we are supposed to look like.
Yeah.
When we're pregnant, when we've given birth, all of the pictures. If you haven't been on the Mama app page, I implore you to follow her on Instagram, follow them on Instagram, and also just go through the feed. And what you see is normalcy. What you see is authenticity. You don't see airbrushed images of pretty women who look like they stepped out of a magazine when really they're, all covered up on the inside and looking perfect and everything. That's not real life. And, we are tired. Whoever's controlling this whole narrative of making us look perfect, we're done. We've had enough. Can you stop?
I think it's so important to show those images. Like I alluded to earlier, you just don't know who's looking and who's affected by these. So my partner Grace and I, one of the things that we strive to do on our Instagram is show really raw images. And sometimes we've been in trouble because we've had a message saying this is a little bit too graphic, and it's like, well, this is
But
real.
it's real life. Yeah. Real life is graphic.
Yeah. It was once, I think it was an image of a birth that we put up. Obviously the mother was consented to it as a photographer, and then we had a couple of people saying, these are very raw images, and we said, well, is there anything more raw than pregnancy? Can you go thing in life more real than a pregnancy, bringing somebody else into this world? So yeah, I think, if, like you said, if you haven't checked it out, you should. And I think I really always do implore other people to try and post things, we're going back to that word that are more authentic. I think it's going to be a small change and a small shift, but over time, all these little small shifts and changes add up to a bigger social change. So I implore you all to try and start posting more real and authentic things, and do yes, like you said, do have a look at our Instagram as well, because some of them are a bit
well, but you know what, I have to say thank you, because you really are helping to drive that change, regardless of how small it might be. But you're making a difference in the world. You're making a difference to the mental health of moms and moms to be and parents of all kinds, all over the world, by just having those very real images. These are things that we used to be uncomfortable looking at, talking about, but hey, this is real life. I remember reading about how back in the day, and even seeing it on some old movies, where men were not even allowed into the delivery room. I don't know why, but I can only presume they felt that it was too raw for another person to see. So things need to change, and you're helping to drive that change, Pegah and Grace. So thank you so much. So we've got some questions. Let me just go through and see if there's anything else on here. If you have just joined us and you think you've missed a great conversation, you're absolutely right. But we are both going to post we're going to post the replay on both platforms, on the Baby Cut Shop as well as Mama app. So you are not losing out completely. Destination Africa, love the topic and your insights today, so impactful. Thank you so much. And so we have, how do I stop negative thoughts about my body?
I think we touched on this earlier. I think you need to identify what's triggering these negative thoughts to come in. Sometimes social media, sometimes it's people that you're around, sometimes it could be things that you're saying about yourself to yourself in the mirror. You need to identify what's triggering these thoughts and then work backwards from there. Sometimes it's, I wake up on a Sunday, maybe I've had a couple of glasses of wine last night, so I'm not feeling the best. this morning. I go on Instagram and I see this super beautiful person, in my opinion, that I want to strive to be, and now I feel bad about myself. Okay, well, the first thing you do on a Sunday morning, if you've had a couple of glasses of wine, for example, you know, these are all arbitrary stories, but maybe don't go on your Instagram the first thing that you do. Maybe wake up, have a shower, go for a walk, clear your head, feel a little bit more fresh and at one with yourself, and then have a look at social media. Another way to do it is to block accounts that make you feel bad, just so they're not there for you to view.
I agree. Absolutely. Unfollow anything. I mean, they don't have to be bad people for you to unfollow them or for you to block them. It's just like, it's your life and your space, and you have to create that environment that your thoughts are going to be birthed from, because your thoughts don't really have the power to, you don't get to cherry pick what you think about. You get to cherry pick what you meditate on, but the initial thought that comes into your mind, oftentimes we can't choose that because it's just whatever's in your space. So you've got to create that space that is safe and healthy. And I mean, I followed, there's an influencer that I really, really love, and I had to unfollow her because I found that I was constantly, you know, looking at her six-pack abs and I was like, oh my goodness, look at how nice and tidy her house is and this and that. And it's like, you know what, we're done. Goodbye, love you from a distance, but I'm not doing it anymore. How do I become confident in my new body?
That's a very good question. One of the ways you can become confident in your new body, especially if it's after you've just had a baby, is thinking about the child that you've just brought into this planet. I think remembering that you did this because you wanted to be a mum, you wanted to, you know, hold your baby for the first time. That is the first and foremost. Second of all, also, I think if really the issue that you're having with your body is that maybe it's slightly bigger to what it was, remember that once your body is healthy and fit, 6 weeks to 6 months, however long it will take you to recover, remember that you can change that. Walking regularly, eating healthy, working out a few times a week, all of those things can help. But I think, again, it goes back to thinking about the core of what it is that's making us feel sad about this. Is it that we've always been used to one weight, for example, and now we're a different weight and we're not used to that? If it's just that, you can change that. But if it's actually, you know, it's really like affecting you, the way that you look, I think sometimes it goes deeper than just your external physical being. Sometimes it is just about something else that might be triggering you. So I always try and tell the mums that I speak to and that I've met that an important way to do this is first and foremost get your body back to its healthy status pre-baby, and by that I mean some people do cesarean, so you need to wait for your body to heal. Other people, have a cut, so it takes time for them. Whatever it is, get your body back to a position where it's healthy in terms of after giving birth, and then try and change little things in your life. Go for walks, read a book, journal, work out. And working out isn't always just about losing weight and looking good. It's here. The endorphins that it releases and what it does to your cortisol levels. I think it's so important to do those things. So I always tell my mums that, and I've had a lot of mums saying to me, before baby, I wasn't really somebody who would go on walks or go to the gym, but I've started doing that now, and it's helping me. Sometimes it's just putting the baby in a pram and going for a 20-minute walk. I can see like a couple of questions have come through in here.
Yes, there is postpartum intimacy. I think that's our team that's feeding them through. How do I deal with postpartum intimacy?
Communication. It sounds very simple and easy, but communication. You could not feel happy about something post giving birth, and you say this to your partner. You say, look, for example, I'm not happy with my arms. Okay, how can we alleviate you not being happy with your arms? We do X, Y, and Z. If you don't communicate, you end up putting yourself in a position where this person that you're intimate with doesn't know that you're feeling insecure about something, and they might then say or do something that to them is normal, and that. So communication is the basis of where I would start that.
Okay, that sounds really, really true. And I think also also getting intimate with yourself, with who you are, again going back to some of what we talked about, by journaling, getting your thoughts on paper, understanding the why of why you feel what you're feeling. When I journal sometimes, and when I teach a journaling online class as well. I always say keep asking why until you can't ask why any longer, until there are no more answers. So you want to keep digging down and finding out, why do I feel the way that I do about my arms, for example? Is it because I'm comparing myself with somebody else? Is it because I can no longer fit into my old dress and it's creating a new narrative for me? You need to understand why you are feeling the way that you are, and not blanket statement it by saying it's because I've put on weight, because there might be more to it than that. So
yeah, absolutely. I think there's one more question. Somebody, how can I feel more attractive in my postpartum body? Attractiveness is subjective.
Love that.
What may be beautiful to one person may not be so beautiful for somebody else. So I think first and foremost, remember to love yourself, and remember that your baby has changed your body, but you've brought into the world your child. You are now a mother, maybe for the first time, second time, third time, whatever. So that's the first thing. The second, change in any way takes time. Changing something about yourself or your life or anything, your work, your looks, your language, whatever it is, doesn't happen overnight. And take it day by day. Every day, think about one thing that you're thankful for in your body, and tell that to yourself. Look in the mirror and say, you know what? Since having a baby, actually, for example, my nails are growing much better and my nails are much healthier. I'm really thankful for that today. Practicing gratefulness. I think it's a nice way of starting to love the new changes that have happened in your body. Love it. Thank you. You're welcome. I hope that was clear.
That's a really good one. Love that as well. Love that response as well. Gratitude. And also when you said earlier on about don't go on social media when your day starts. If you have a habit of going on social media, how about swapping it for, what am I grateful for in my body? That's a good one, isn't it? Yeah. Write it down.
I write everything in this. I mean, everything. I go through about one of these a month.
Oh my gosh, we're twins.
In here, it's honestly, practice it. It will change your life completely. Give it a couple of weeks. Every day, everything you're thinking, put it down, come back to it, read it, and see how that's
changed. Oh my gosh, this has been so good. This has been a great conversation, Pegah. Thank you so much
for having me, Talks.
You are very welcome. And if you want to learn more about Mama App, the Instagram handle is mama.app, and it is an app that you can, of course, download. And there you find all things to do with postpartum, pregnancy, trying to conceive. They've called it a yellow pages directory of all of these areas. So everything you need is in there. And of course, for anything to do with your nursery room, interiors, child's playroom or bedroom, from furniture to linens to accessories, lighting, rugs, whatever, we're here for you. We're at 408 Kings Road in Chelsea, London, and also online at thebabycutshop.com. But this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much, Pegah. And we have to pick up again, because I think that we need to have a spin-off episode on journaling and mindset.
I think we should do that.
Yeah. Because as you're speaking, I'm thinking, Pegah sounds like my sister that I never had. I need to question my mom. You need to question your mom as well.
Yeah, let's have a talk with them.
All right, then. Thank you so much, my dear. Have a lovely evening.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. And thanks, everyone, for joining us. Have a good evening.